Hello and welcome to ET Now Special. Sundaram Mutual Fund presents Wealth Creators SIP edition Nivesh Day, partnered of course by your favorite network, the Times Network. The show on which we say, take a pledge. Like my guest on the show has always said, don't time the market but time your goals. But to time your goals you have to start, and to start you have to understand. So it's all about a little bit of understanding, a lot of commitment, but more importantly, discipline is what you need to follow when you're looking at creating money via the SIP route. So Sunil, I'll start with your punchline. I shamelessly use it every time. Don't time the market, time your goals. Yes. SIP is clearly about timing your goals.
Yes, absolutely. Because the reason that this works like a wonderful mantra is because once you have a goal in mind and you have the discipline of putting the money, two things work in your favor. One is the power of compounding, which is called the eighth wonder of the world, because money works when you sleep. Money never stops working. But more importantly, there is this concept called rupee cost averaging, because when you have a goal, in life there are ups and downs. So in stock markets, there are ups and downs. Nobody has that every day is better than the previous day. So what happens with this disciplined long-term approach is when there are downs, you buy more by your discipline. So actually, if you break out the amount of wealth creation that happens over a long term and you take power of compounding and you take the averaging, you made more money when there were corrections than when the markets were high. But unless you have a goal, you lack the discipline. If you are an investor who says, okay, I want to make money in the market, at what time do you think you have made enough money? Never. Whereas if your goal to which you have linked that goal is achieved, you have a clear reason to take the money out. And that when you do is when you enjoy the fruits. Otherwise, staying invested in the market for the long term is like a never ending game. Right? You are not in Neverland, each of us. And the fundamental thing which everybody shouldn't forget is, why are you investing? Investment is nothing but a postponement of today's consumption for a better consumption tomorrow. So the goal helps you specify what consumption you want. One should not get swayed by your mood swings, by your own financial swings, because you have to save what you want and then spend what is left, instead of typically, if you don't have that goal and you don't put an SIP in it, you will spend what you can and what is left you will try to save. So this process of an SIP disciplined approach with a goal helps you in multiple ways to achieve your goals at the end of your investment tenure.
You know, SIP is very simple. Now SIP is the new AMI. But with SIP you need regular income. Now there is a large audience here who would say that, look, I am not salaried. I don't have a regular income. So what do I do?
So two things are there. So one is that the way the mutual fund industry has structured the SIP investment is that you put a debit to your bank account every day. You tell your bank, please debit my account. But the beauty with the mutual fund system that we've done is, if your check doesn't get passed because that day you didn't have money, there are two more times that it comes back to your account. So by you put the discipline of the 5th, in case you miss the 5th, you put in the money on the 6th, they will come back to you and take that money. So the discipline of the 5th, even if you don't have a monthly income, is that the mutual fund industry gives you twice or thrice the time to go back and take. So that's where the discipline is important. It doesn't matter if you don't have a monthly income, but make your savings disciplined monthly, right? And ultimately, what are we talking about? Let us say, I would say for an average person, I would say 25% of your monthly income you should at least save, right? Now that may not be on a regular income, but in your corpus of income, make sure 25% is for saving. And it's only that you need to make sure your account is funded to 25% of your. So even for people without a salaried income, without a monthly rental income, I'm sure putting the discipline of the 5th of every month to save every month. So your income may be variable, but your saving, let it not be variable.
Now, you know, when you were young, the concept of filter coffee became instant coffee. When I was young, the concept of noodles became instant noodles. When my nephew and niece, when I talk to them, they are also talking about another Insta, but they are talking about Instagram, right? So everybody wants instant gratification. Okay. SIP is not instant gratification. It's very easy, right?
Yes.
Very nice to talk about long term, but very difficult to implement, right?
Yes. I agree with you. This is an emotional thing which today's youngsters have to tackle. But I think when you use the word instant gratification, I think the lesson is that delayed gratification is always better than instant gratification. And they say one who laughs last laughs loudest and longest, right? So to that extent, SIP and disciplined investing is a kadvi truth to swallow. It is a bitter pill, right? So there's no point in trying to avoid it. I'm saying that we all, I think, are smart enough and intelligent enough to realize that our current money stream, our current thing are not going to last forever, but we all have an aspiration that my lifestyle when I earn should remain as good when I don't earn. And for that, a concept of delaying your consumption, delaying your gratification is a disciplined mental thing that you have to address. And in the case of SIP, it's only discipline. There's no hard work needed. You set up the debit from your account, it takes care of the work for you. So you don't have to think every month. The second point is that when you are, what is discipline? Discipline is preventing you from doing things as you wish, as you please, whenever you like. I think that discipline is the ultimate thing that you have to grasp. So don't try to escape from that. Discipline in investing is the best thing that you can do. And like physical fitness, your fiscal, as an individual fiscal fitness lies in this discipline.
They say that 80% of the wealth is made by asset allocation. And a very simple asset allocation is debt versus equity versus real estate versus gold. But when you see markets like what we are experiencing right now, how does that asset allocation work?
So I think, see, when we talk about SIP and asset allocation in the same breath, right? In the case of SIP, you correctly mentioned that it's got to be linked to a goal. So in the case of the goal-based SIP asset allocation, it's only one asset allocation, it's not constant revision of the asset allocation.
So if you've started a SIP and your goal is, let's say, 15 years, I want to get my daughter married, or I want it for my children's education. So don't change that goal.
Don't change
Stick to that SIP, whether
correct,
it is equity SIP, but stick to it.
Yes, that is one. Asset allocation is less important the longer you make your investment tenure. Because in the long run, right, if you look at the world at large, a country's stock market grows with the nominal GDP of the country, right? What is nominal GDP? It is the real growth of the country with inflation. So what does this mean is that the stock market automatically rewards you with inflation plus. Why does this happen? Because inflation is something that affects you as an individual. But bear in mind that for every person who's getting hit by inflation, there's a counterparty who's benefiting by inflation. And the stock market is that vehicle which is allowing you to own that counterparty which is benefiting from inflation. So the longer you stretch it out, the more likely you are. So in that context, for any longer term, I would say that you put it entirely in equity the longer you have tenure. Your asset allocation comes in when you have surplus cash, you want to deploy it for a 2-3 year time frame, then there is a choice, because in 2-3 year times often equities don't do as well. But over the long run, there is a smoothing out, and the country's nominal GDP always reflects itself in the stock market. So I would suggest that this SIP goal need not be linked with asset allocation. Long term equities is the best asset class to build a goal.
So I'll ask a very basic question. Maybe it's a question where I seek your personal guidance for my personal goals. My son is 12 years old, and of course you want to build up a corpus, or like they say, a egg nest for his education. So if I start a SIP, I should not cancel that SIP till the time I don't require the money for his education.
Absolutely.
Okay. What happens when he's studying? That year it's a bear market. What happens, something goes wrong and markets that year fall by 30%? Then what should I do?
So that's because market is a function of demand and supply. So at that time the demand supply is not in your favor. So there are two things that you have set a time goal for that. There are very likely the markets run up, let's say 12 years from now you set a time goal. Let's say in 10 years itself your financial goal would have been achieved. When that goal is achieved, I would suggest you redeem it and put it down to a liquid fund, because in the next 2 years there could be a bear market and it could erode. You cannot afford to take a risk. So when you have a time goal which has got a monetary component, and the monetary component is achieved, because very often the market delivers your goal before the time is achieved. So at that time, be disciplined to redeem your equity investment, park it in liquid, so that you don't want to take a risk of that education not having the money. So don't do that. Second, you assume that the markets didn't deliver that, and so it's getting now close, and then a bear market has happened. So two things are there I would suggest to you is that if the corpus is still good enough, take it out, don't worry that it was a bear market. If it is not good enough, then I would suggest you actually borrow money to finance that son's education and stretch your investment in the equity by another couple of years. When post the bear market and the rise, that will more than compensate, right? So at that point, take a tactical call, because markets, when they go down, they come up. So try not to exit in a bear market when your goal has not been achieved.
My son is 12 years old, and of course you want to build up a corpus, or like they say, a egg nest for his education. So if I start a SIP, I should not cancel that SIP till the time I don't require the money for his education.
Absolutely.
Okay. What happens when he's studying? That year it's a bear market. What happens, something goes wrong and markets that year fall by 30%? Then what should I do?
So that's because market is a function of demand and supply. So at that time, the demand supply is not in your favor. So there are two things that you have set a time goal for that. There are very likely the markets run up, let's say 12 years from now, you set a time goal. Let's say in 10 years itself, your financial goal would have been achieved. When that goal is achieved, I would suggest you redeem it and put it down to a liquid fund, because in the next 2 years, there could be a bear market and it could erode.
When you say that if your goals have been met in this 15 year, if my time goal is 15 years, but my financial goal could have reached in 12 years.
Yes.
It may reach in 18 years. How do I know that the financial goal has been reached? Is there a Sensex number? Is there a Nifty number which tells me that, okay, this is the Lakshman Rekha I need to sell, and this is the Lakshman Rekha on the downside where I should not be selling?
So I think that I would rather twist it around a little bit and say that when you build the monetary goal, you have a time goal because age of your son is fixed. So in 12 years, he'll be college eligible or marriage eligible or whatever eligible. So the time goal is fixed, but the monetary goal, you need to arrive at it. So very simple thumb rule, right? Long-term inflation in India has been at 7%. So in your computation, put 8%. Take 1% as the odd. Compound the monetary value through that Excel sheet that you do to 8%, right? As the inflation cost of that goal. Today, if your son's education in Harvard is going to cost X amount of rupees, compound it at 8% to that 12 years later, that will freeze your financial corpus. So then you already have a monetary number to talk. Then if that happens in 10 years instead of 12, ruthlessly redeem, exit, put it into a non-volatile asset class, liquid funds, bank deposit, take a choice, right? That's one. Second, if that has not been reached, that monetary goal, at that time you have the advantage of seeing whether Harvard education has actually compounded at 8 or only compounded at 6. So you might find, though that monetary corpus was not reached, that money is good enough for the education. Then kya farak? No. If Harvard has grown at 12% inflation, as education inflation generally grows faster than this, and you say that when that 12 years is completed, you are in deficit vis-a-vis the Harvard education. Like I said, don't redeem, stretch your investment from 12 to 15 or whenever, take a borrowing at that time to finance your son so that his dream of Harvard doesn't get affected. And then as the market bounces back, it will go beyond that point, take that loan and close off that, redeem that and close that loan.
So Sunil, I'll throw in that whole part of 5-year, 10-year and retirement. So let's look at what is the best SIP if you have a 5-year goal, what is the best SIP if you have a 10-year goal, and what is the best SIP if you have a 20-year plus goal. Can you just advise the SIP categories? So
I would say that in a 5-year goal, there are equity hybrid instruments. There are 3 or 4 different types of funds, like aggressive hybrid, which normally has 70% equity, 30% debt. You have balance advantage, which varies it according to market value. The fund manager takes a call. And then you have equity savings, which is a 30-30-30 roughly, right? So if you take a 5-year goal, you want to make sure that most of the time you are able to beat inflation, and you can't take a chance that you are on a bear market at the end of it. So 5-year goals, equity-oriented hybrid products are a good investment. When you go to 10 years, I would say that you have a 70-30 large cap, mid cap component. The reason is that while in 10 years you never lose money, right, the cyclicality of the economy means that the chances that you might be at a downturn in 10 years comes through, because normally it's a 5 to 7 year cycle. So having 70% large cap, make sure that in the good time you make decent money. Mid caps would have made better money, but even if you're in a bad market at the 10th year, that large cap component will save you, will give you a decent healthy growth. If you are in a 15-year bucket, I would actually suggest that you put 100% in a mid cap fund. The reason is that over that 2 business cycles, mid caps are ideally between super volatile small caps and safe large caps. So you get a best of both worlds. You minimize the riskiness there and you don't give up all the safety to the large cap, and it grows. So in a 15-year time frame, I would say mid caps are basically India. You're investing in India, because the larger caps are largely where FIIs play. But the true story of India is the story of mid cap. So when you have a 15-year plus outlook, I would say that you generally put, I would say, okay, if you want to take it, make it 80% mid cap, 10% large cap, 10% small cap at the other end. Now in this, I never push in small cap here, because small caps are very cyclical in this allocation. So in small caps, the timing of your exit is as, small caps are not blindly shut it, fill it, shut it, forget it, because they tend to react very badly in bear markets and the risk that at that particular time pin point you have. So small caps are the one investment which I would say shouldn't be goal based. It should be that multiplier based. So if you want to say, oh, I want my money to multiply 3x, put it as a small cap. The timing of when it will be 3x is not there, but the discipline that when it goes to 3, you redeem. That way you will time the cycle best, because you set a goal. Maybe somebody said 3, but don't link it to an external goal, because the risk of that time of bear market being. So in the case of small caps alone, let it be a blend into your portfolio where you keep 5-10% in a small cap portfolio, but that one you set a goal ke itna mera paisa dugna hoga, 3 hoga, then I redeem it out. So you always had a pleasant working experience. After you become 3 times, it may become 4 times. Don't have regret. Take it out because you made that 3, because small caps by nature, or because of the volatility, are like this. So they should not be the core part of a long-term portfolio. Mid caps are much better suited to that.
Such a valuable advice. They say that there is a thumb rule which you follow, 100 minus your age.
Yes.
Is that like a thumb rule which is history now? Because models keep changing, world keeps changing. Is this it's a very basic thumb rule. Is there a thumb rule which requires still a lot of, is there merit in this thumb rule?
No longer a merit, and I agree with you that it's changed in history. And the reason it's changed is not any of these things that you mentioned. The reason it's changed is because the advance of medicine has made Indian life expectancy to be average 72. Now the average 72 includes the man on the street and the man in your AC cabin. So if you take the investing class, I would say it's closer to 80. So now what happens, you retire at 60. Right? And you say 100 minus my age, the point is you have 20 more years of existence which you need to finance. So it's not enough to have only 40% in equity at the age of 60. So if you have a 20-year outlook on investing, right, there's no need to limit your investment. It is that the investment is linked to goals. So if you have a goal at the age of 60 in 3 years, yes, you put that in hybrid instruments or debt or whatever. If you have a goal, anything which is 5 years plus, equities are still the best at that class. So for a person who's taken care of his next 5 years needs in terms of keeping it in liquid and those, I would say put 100% in equity, because your outlook is 20. Now you'll say, sir, what if it's not 20, I get cancer and I pass away earlier? The point is that you are investing for a multiple generational approach. You would like to leave some bequeath, something to your grandchildren too. So all you do is you even take a 20-year outlook to your investment and put a nomination to the person who wants the money after you. So that doesn't stop with you and it leaves a legacy forever. The 100 minus thing is no longer a relevant thing. What is relevant is, what are your goals even after retirement? At 60, do you still want to at 70 be able to go and do a trip to Europe? Same for that. So I think that now it's more linked to your goals and it's not linked to your age.
They say you should start early, have a discipline and don't cancel. Is that like the golden rule which should never change? The sooner you start, the better it is.
I think that's a very good thing to say, but my only worry is that for people who haven't started early, they will feel that, arey yaar, this is not for me.
Exactly.
So I think that it's important to say that as long as you have a 20-year horizon, the markets will give phenomenal wealth. That 20-year horizon, as I just mentioned to the previous question, could start at 60. So even at 60, it's not too late to start, right? So you can't then say that, oh, I didn't start till the age of 60, it's too late to start. You still have a 20-year investment horizon. So it's never too late to start as long as you have a 15, 20-year horizon in front of you, which to me is till the age of 65 also. So if you haven't started early, don't worry. This starting early is a message to the new young yuppie Gen X, Gen Z person who is thinking of spend now, worry later, to say save now, spend later. So I think it's a good thing, but it's suitable for the young people who are probably neglecting investing, to say that starting early can make you more money, but shouldn't be ending up that an older person feels I've missed the boat, so it's too late to start. It's never too late to start.
Okay, so it comes down to Nivesh Day.
Yes.
5th of every month.
Yes.
Start, keep it simple, open a SIP, stick to asset allocation, and don't time the market, time the goals.
Time the goals.
Time the goals.
Yes.
So it's a simple thing which we are inviting everyone to come.
Yeah.
Take that whole pledge is not the right word, but in a sense, take a leap of faith.
Yes, and I would say that, pledge is also good, because a pledge, like where do you do? You break the pledge on Republic Day in our country. So I think pledge also has a symbolism. Pledge also has a commitment that I'm making. So I think pledge is a good word to use that. But I think the discipline on the 5th to take that in your mind is that on that day, right, regardless of whatever happens in life, your money should go into that SIP. Right? And we spoke about doing multiple SIPs. So when you're talking goal-based SIP, you choose different SIPs for different goals, so that you track them to that goal. Putting everything into one and then saying, I will take out this for this goal in 10 years, that for this goal, it doesn't work. So separate out your SIP accounts itself, linked to each goal. For each goal you have, so some goals may be in 5 years. So you open a 5-year SIP. Some goals may be in 20 years. A retirement goal could be in 35, 40 years if you have started early. So clearly earmark it, so that you, and in your own, I think banks and everybody provide you that ability to label it something, right? So you can label it as my retirement EMI, my retirement whatever, right? So I think that concept of savings EMI is very good, because we all know whether we like it or not, that EMI goes. So your question earlier about what if I don't have regular income, I would like to know how many people who don't have regular income still have regular EMIs to buy a house. If they can find a way to pay that EMI every month, they can very well find a way to put that SIP every month.
Well, Sunil, so nice to have you, and thank you very much for partnering with us. You've been a long-term associate with us, so just really enjoy the whole experience that, working together with one common goal. How can Indians really achieve their goals?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and all the very best, and happy investing to everybody.
Thank you very much.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Please read all scheme-related documents carefully before investing.